all the nursing schools will do what we're doing. Not only the nursing school, but the doctors as well will do this. And we've had social workers even come to our program. So it is needed everywhere because they don't fully understand our way of life. And getting to know and build that relationship will improve everything.
We must move beyond position statements, underfunded policy promises, and ineffective online training. Our systems won't transform until the people working in them do. To transform biases and beliefs, people must be engaged in supportive, relational, reflective, and meaningful experiences. The Learning Our Way model of experiential learning provides this opportunity through field schools, which are multi-day, land-based, immersive education programs hosted in partner communities and led by local Indigenous knowledge holders.
It's important to learn about Indigenous people through the years of, not being able to learn it. Because I remember being in high school and I knew nothing about residential school. I knew nothing, All they taught me was, this lady named Anne Frank who had to hide in an attic from Germans. And you know what? Hearing that story, the planes going by and everything is the exact same story as what they did here. Our people would hear the planes come and they'd be like, oh no, hide, hide. I'm just like, y'all sugar-coated some shit here, like
Before I came to the college to teach nursing, I worked on the North Island as a community nurse in a variety of roles. And when I was working there, I heard about Evelyn Voyager, who was trying to teach us non-native people about the impacts of residential schools on health. And what I noticed is nobody was listening. We didn't have the ears to listen. We hadn't heard the stories before. People were dying. The people were not getting access to healthcare, and it was causing huge health issues in the community. My eyes were being opened every day when I heard stories from the communities. And the nurses that were coming were not prepared, and they didn't stay. There was turnovers happening.
Sometimes we've had hospitals in town release people from their care without letting anybody know. And so we've had clients that were abandoned in town. They had no transportation back. They had no money for a hotel. So our nurses are invaluable to us. I don't know where we'd be without the nurses that push for proper care.
I have family members who are Indigenous and are racialized as Indigenous when they enter the healthcare system. And because of that, they have experienced significant healthcare crises and outcomes that are directly related to the stereotypes and assumptions that are made about a young brown man seeking pain medication. The fact that my children have Indigenous ancestry, and therefore the statistics tell us about all of the potential negative outcomes that they will experience simply by virtue of that. And not because it is with just nature determines it, but it is entirely a human making. So the horrific health outcomes and the gaps in health are because of racism. They are not because of a lack of the individuals themselves. We can actually do something about that. So what I'd like to see is us actually do what we know is the right thing to do.
It's complicated. No matter what happens, I think all of us that are committed to decolonization and reconciliation understand that we're on a lifelong journey that's going to be full of mistakes and learning from mistakes. And so also learning our way, I think, is always gonna be like us, like a work in progress. That's gonna have to like keep changing and adapting as it goes along, as we change, as communities change, you know. We come into the community kind of saying we don't want to impose our Western ideas on the community. We realize that we're not the experts, you're the experts, and we want to learn from you. But we're also mindful that we don't want to just come and like extract resources and knowledge in a inequitable way and just take those away and like apply them to our careers in nursing and social work and teaching. So how can we like truly be reciprocal?
Inspiration isn't a strong enough word. When people are signing up for post-secondary training anywhere after learning our way's been here, that is an indication that something has taken effect. When we've placed something somewhere, that it's enough to change the current of the river, that it'll take a new direction. And I think that learning our way has done that for Kyuquot.
Life is a never-ending learning cycle. I was always told to never become an expert, because once you become an expert, you start shutting down your learning because you have it all. And this is part of where we have a problem with academia. We have so many experts and then they close their eyes or ears to more learning. Yeah. Because we all interact the world with based on our values, beliefs, and principles, or our mindsets. So we do create blind spots through our education. When I went to university at age 17, my elders had a tea and told me, we want you to go learn as much as possible, but don't come home thinking you know our problems and solve our problems. I said, that will never happen. Guess what, 4 years later, after UBC, I went home thinking I knew my people's problem. They had to sit me down again. What did we tell you 4 years ago? In order to understand our problem, you have to live with it. You know, so learning our way is about learning, about understanding. When we learn about other people, we learn something about ourselves.
I think there is a real genuine place for learning our way, both for the trainees that come to Kyuquot and for the community members of Hoopsitas, that there's a way forward for the both of us to continue to exist together.
When we go into community, we come as ourselves first, as humans, vulnerable humans who actually are dependent on the community to look after us. We're dependent on them to get us there, to get through the waves, literally, to drive us in the boats, to feed us when we're there, to protect us from the bears, to show us how to live and be safe. And it completely flips the story from when people are coming into the hospital and relying on nurses to do exactly the same thing. And what happens when you all of a sudden are the vulnerable ones, relying on people to look after you, is you learn so much about yourself. And I've heard from so many people is, wow, do we ever need to change the way we do things? We need to make people feel welcome when they come to see us in our world.
One thing I think coming back that I've been really reflecting on is I've heard people talking about the content and the knowledge learning and the heart learnings and like the transformative experiences, but I think another really important aspect of learning our way for me is the body learning. So that means like going in the boat, right? Or driving the 4 hours on the road to get here, seeing what's happening with the weather, feeling cold, getting wet, and then even like the getting in and out of the boat. Like this morning is like, okay, getting out of the boat with my backpack, like going up the hill to the school and being out of breath and very hot and then like taking off all my layers, right? So as a teacher or a social worker, I feel like, or for the nurses too, like when we're back in our bigger centers, if I have a student that says, like, I couldn't get my assignment done on the weekend because I went home, and the boat got delayed because of the weather, like I can understand and empathize with that, like in a body way more deeply than just like kind of thinking I know what that's about, because I've kind of like been there. And even if they're not from Kyuquot, like they're from a different Indigenous community that's a long drive or a different boat ride, there's like a bit of a shared experience, like a shared physical experience there.
First Nations people are taught you're one with the land. Without the land, where would you be? So that you have to look after the land because it looks after you. And that's not even mentioned in a hospital. All they're talking about is the illness. They only dwell with the symptoms. They don't look at the cause of what the problems are. That, I believe, is very wrong and not getting people healthier. And a lot of these nurses, the students that come, are very, very grateful because now they know there are other ways of getting healthy.
Now, Learning Our Way has done so much for community members as it stands right now. I can't even imagine what it's done for the nurses that have come to learn how to be more culturally sensitive or at least aware, trauma-informed, because their boots are on the ground and they could see exactly what it is that happens in the community when things don't go right from a health perspective.
How do we look after one another? And how do we look after Mother Earth? Our relationship to Mother Earth is very sacred. How do you become a better person to provide the best version of who you are as a nurse? How do we leave this world in a better place when we entered it? Which means that what's your best version of everything that you do, whether it's nursing, whether it's doctoring, whether it's mechanic, whatever. How do you create that?
We have the data that says this is the best way to do it. We have communities that are generously willing to bring people in and teach them ways of being and to welcome them and host them in their communities despite the legacies of colonization. In order to keep developing and offering field schools, we are in need of financial commitments. Participation in a Learning Our Way field school contributes to increased empathy, improved intercultural understandings, and catalyzes cultural humility for participants. These capacities are essential to advancing health equity and ending Indigenous-specific discrimination in healthcare and social services.
The people that come here, I hope that they leave here with comfort. Hope that they leave here knowing that they are welcome to come back, knowing that this is home, and that our culture is for everyone. Our culture, as long as you respect it, as long as you enjoy it, and love it, and I feel like this place is for everybody.
Together with the communities of Wekino, Kwagiuth, Kyuquot Checklisset, and Zawataneo First Nation, this project was made possible with funding from the Canadian Institutes of Health Research and generous support from the Centre for Applied Research, Technology and Innovation at NIC and Continuing Education at North Island College.